Oftentimes, the sport of boxing can be pleasing. It could be entertaining, engaging, sometimes with the type of action that can bring you right out of your seat. However, there's a different side to the sport of boxing. And every so often, we are reminded of this different, darker side. And this video editorial will purposely cover what I mean when I say that, as we happen to take a look into the painful truth: doping in boxing. I know there's a certain amount of displeasure when this subject arises, but we can't overlook what's really going on. Recently, there was an interview conducted out of the UK by Simon Jordan. He had an opportunity to bring in a boxing trainer to talk about this subject. None other than Adam Booth, the man who trained and guided David Haye, cruiserweight and heavyweight champion. This conversation that took place between Jordan and Booth was one of the most revealing and sincere discussions that I've seen in a long time regarding doping in boxing. And as we break down what was said, we'll take a moment to pause and give thoughts on what's being said, whom happens to be those associated with the subject at hand, and what does it mean overall. Mr. Booth offers up some sincere information, and we should listen to what he has to say.
For you, the landscape of boxing, the doping that's going on, there's a lot going on in the sport right now, and obviously Conor Benn is the big example. What we've seen, Robert Helenius, we've seen Dillian White, we've seen Alicia Baumgarten in the women's sport. I spoke to Malik Scott, Deontay Wilder's trainer, by the way, was a really interesting character.
I know Malik. Yeah.
Really interesting character. How clean. He talked about, Spencer Oliver talks about 60% of fighters. This guy, Malik, was talking about 50-60% of fighters doping.
At the highest level you're talking about?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's your view on that?
I've lost faith in the sport in that sense. I agree with them. I think it's rife. There are so many ways that now they can avoid detection. And even when they do get caught, they can prove, science can prove that you can, hang an elephant by a daisy chain, right? Science can prove anything, and you've only got to mention a half credible possible reason why you failed a dope test, along with some well-funded lawyers, and you're probably going to get away with it.
Now you see, Mr. Booth is telling it like it is. Many people don't want to hear that, but it's very true. The lawyers, high profile, well paid, they make certain that they are available to handle these circumstances because such a huge percentage of those participating athletes are involved in the dark side of boxing. It's unfortunate because 60% or maybe a little higher, that is outweighing the good. So what do we do about it? When you listen to people talk about it publicly, and we're talking about those who are involved in the sport, nobody wants to say the honest thing. And that is that there are fighters out here who would not even be able to participate in the sport unless something dark was going on.
It's disgusting. I had a conversation in a changing room after a fight, and I'm not going to say who my fighter was because that would say the situation. But I was there with someone from the significant dope testing agency, who I'd met before and was very intelligent, articulate, and knowledgeable. And I asked this person, how often do you test a fighter or turn up on a fight night believing that they've doped, knowing that you're not going to catch them? And the answer was, if we don't get a minimum of 10 to 12 weeks of testing, the chances of us catching them significantly reduce. And the best way for a fighter, if they're going to dope, to avoid that is delay signing the fight contract. Have an argument about complimentary tickets or hotel allotment, or but I want Moldovan TV rights, right? Yeah, we'll do the fight. We're going to do the fight on that date, but the contract's not quite ready yet because there's this small detail to sign. Until you get 5 or 6 weeks before the fight, and the fight's been announced, but you can announce it, but subject to contract. Then you sign the contract, and once you sign the contract, the doping agencies get appointed. So figure that out for the timescale. And once they said that, and I knew of a situation where a fight had been, has the contract been signed yet? Has the contract been signed yet? Why has it not been signed? Oh, it's just this, it's that, it's that. Then you find, okay, well, that was signed 4.5 weeks before the fight. Now it makes sense.
Now you see, I've talked about this on my channel. I've talked about certain fighters in the sport of boxing where we have seen delays. What's taking so long for a fight to get made? They said they signed, then there was a hang-up. We were still ironing out the details of the contract. We've seen fighters postpone matches. We've seen them pull out of matches only to have a fight scheduled or rescheduled for a later date. All of this is a part of what we're talking about here, doping. And some of your most popular names and figures in the sport are associated with having been involved with this at one point or another, to the degree that the fans never stop to think about why these fights are being delayed. Why is a calendar being pushed back, pushed back, pushed back? There's a lot of money involved in this. There's a lot of greedy little sticky fingers in the pot. But when fighters seemingly have a deal that can be made straight away, but it doesn't take place, there are not many who ask the why. Why is the match not taking place? And the truth is, doping is a serious part of the sport of boxing. Not everyone, but enough to make the difference. Recently, we have witnessed certain names in the sport whether they be popular or not, whether a promotional company presses the gas for a specific fighter or not. We've seen same promotional companies do away with guys, toss them to the side for having failed drug tests. Then we've seen others where they go to the wire to promote these guys and to get them the type of representation that serves a greater need for that particular promoter and manager. The story is a long one, but it's happening, people. And these two men are discussing it. Whether you like what they're saying or not, they're putting it out there. I've talked about this in a more minuscule manner, but here it comes from one man who has a direct involvement in the sport, Mr. Booth. And he said he knows specifically of a circumstance and didn't want to mention the fighter because then everyone would know. But we can make guesses all day long. But we've seen this. Big matches just over the past couple of years. The fight was all ready to go. Tickets purchased, venue set, everything. And then just a couple of weeks before the match, nothing. The fight will be postponed. There's another aspect of filth that comes from these circumstances of doping. The testing is done when those contracts are signed. You just heard him say that, Mr. Booth. And he talked about being 5 weeks out or so from a fight. But do you know that the testing stops when a fighter says he's retiring? Oh yeah. The retiring reason to evade doping. We've heard that several times from certain fighters in the sport. And then after a little while away from the ring, they return. But all the while, the random testing stops when the fighter announces publicly he's retiring. How many times have you heard that? How many times have you witnessed and wondered aloud and even in silence? What's up with so-and-so retiring and coming back again and again? What is that about? Think about it. We have more reasons to understand what we're seeing here. And they're telling you. But we're in an age now where even when you tell the public, the masses, the truth to their faces, they prefer to be lied
Charles
to.
was talking the other day before the Dubois-Usyk fight, and he said that anything you've profited from boxing as a result of a dope fight should be taken away from you. That will consecrate people's minds when they start having assets taken away. Derek Chisora talked about 10-year bans because, with the strict liability. Are you a fan of strict liability, by the way?
Oh, okay. We'll come on to that. You mean being responsible?
The deterrence.
Yes, I do agree with
deterrence.
I agree with that because I think the whole thing needs to be cleaned up. I think the whole thing needs to be a lot clearer. What goes on the ban list, what doesn't go on the ban list. There are substances that just help you recover quicker, should they be banned. There are substances that make you something that you wouldn't necessarily naturally or genetically be, like anabolics.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Right. So, but because the sport doesn't have a central governing body,
Yeah.
that is the reason why this mess can never be cleared up. Yeah, there's no cohesion or coordination in what is and what isn't banned in terms of all the territories via one.
But irrespective of that, isn't it the trainer and the management's job to know? I know you're making a case for what can enhance or create a problem, but if it's on a ban list, isn't it the professional team's job to know what's on a ban list? Do you know what the substances that people are putting in their bodies?
Does everybody, but not everyone in this world lives with the same moral standards that we set for ourselves.
I'm not talking about morality. I'm talking about professionalism.
Well, okay. Oh, but there's a difference, because if you're a coach that wants your fighter to dope, to give yourself a chance of keep winning and making that money, you'll put your moral standards to the side and say, no, I'm just going to do whatever it takes to win.
You see that? Mr. Booth is very frank, succinct in his articulation of what transpires, even down to coaches, personal trainers, the so-called dietitians. He's going to speak on that even further, but I just want to point it out to you people. Please wake up to what's going on. It is right in front of your face, and it can't be denied what's happening.
100% there's coaches out there and fighters out there and managers out there that encourage doping and cheating for success and the financial rewards.
Is it as prolific as I've just suggested?
Yes.
Right.
In my opinion, yes.
Is everybody around the fighter? Is it possible that fighters can dope
Without anyone knowing?
without anyone else knowing?
No, I don't think so.
So then, does it mean that when a fighter finds himself on the wrong side of an argument, let's say Dillian White situation, and he gets proven in recent fight, does that mean everybody suffers the same sanctions?
No.
Why not?
Because I think it's there because the fighter should know, whoever's guilty should know who knew and who didn't.
Yeah, but you just said that it's not possible for the team around him not to know, which makes them complicit.
Okay, not all the team. What I'm saying is it's not possible for nobody to know. Someone would know, whether it's the nutritionist, the coach, the manager, a partner, a friend, someone would know that person is doping, but it isn't necessarily the coach or the manager.
So you do not agree, so you're not in the camp then of if everyone's in, they're all in. So if a fighter is found to have doped, that everyone around him goes down with him?
To date.
Because that would make everyone double diligent, wouldn't it?
Ah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So, goes back then to what's the risk for these fighters?
Yeah,
Right?
a couple of years sometimes.
And if that,
yeah.
what's the financial risk?
You see, what did I say earlier? It comes down to the money. The greedy little piggy pinkies that are sticking in the box, the barrel, the bowl. And the fighters are the last to get what they really deserve as far as compensation. Putting your life on the line, is that not worth compensation? But we're seeing so much of the story that there's a diversion thing going on here. And people are just not wisening up to what's happening. But here you have these men talking about it, and they're putting it right out there for you. But most will just gloss over this. Link to the show will be in the description because they talked about far more than what this video's subject is about. However, it has to be pointed out, and I'm just carrying the baton across these seas so that people can be made aware. There's conversation that needs to be had.
The criminal risk. Now, we're in a sport where people die. What happens if somebody is died or critically injured, lifelong, and the person is found guilty of doping in that fight? Does that should then become a criminal offence? A criminal offence, not a ban. Forget bans. A criminal offence. If someone knowingly dopes and makes themselves something they wouldn't ordinarily be in a combat sport environment where you know that people can be injured at best and die at worst, and you cheat and it's enhanced you and that person dies, you should absolutely be criminally charged. And I pray and touch wood that never happens to any of my fighters, but if it were, I would do everything in my power to see if I could
take it down that route.
Break that route.
What have you made of Conor Benn's situation?
A mess.
In what? I mean, I think it's a mess for a lot of reasons, but my views are well documented.
It's just another one. It's just another one. It's just another one that has made me lose my faith in the system. Whether he did or didn't take a substance, for me, is irrelevant. It's how the process allows this
circumnavigation.
I mean, what's ambiguity? It's not even ambiguity, is it? You can drive a bus through some of these scenarios. And I'm like I said, I didn't take his blood, I didn't take his piss, I didn't go to that testing lab and test it to make sure there could be no cross-contamination. So I can't pass my opinion on whether Conor Benn or any of these other cats are definitely guilty or not. My perspective from a coach that's got fighters to look up to me for my guidance and protection. No, all my fighters know people dope. They know that they may come across someone that's doping. What can I do as a coach or a manager to protect them? Well, I'll do everything I can in terms of VADA, and I'll do this and I'll do that, but you can never protect them. The situation with, if you say the Conor Benn scenario, and if you look at the chronology of it and the tests that were done and the fails that were done and where he was training and what popped up on social media that he was working with this doctor who, and when you go through it just all looked bad. Not only did that look bad, but the way that the Board of Control did or didn't know and held on to that result, or the way that Matchroom and Wasserman and it was all dealt with. From someone in the business, it looked a fucking mess.
Wow. Did he or did he not say more than a mouthful? You see, this is it. This is two men having a conversation. Now, he's talking as a manager and coach who has fighters that he has to look out for. These men risk their lives. They put their lives on the line every time they step into that ring. So someone who's cheating, doping, purposely, what's the point? Is it really to take another man's life? To take him away from his family? All in competition for a scheduled 10 to 12 round fight? The dark side, the shadiness of the sport of boxing, the painful truth. There is doping in boxing.
All it's done is just made me realize that at this very moment in time, the only way of making this sport fair is to let everyone do whatever the hell they want. Have no doping control. Just say, you want to take anabolic?
That can't be the answer, can it?
But it's that bad that it is. You should. Okay, tell me.
Someone's going to get badly hurt, then, aren't they?
Absolutely. I'm not saying that that's what I want. What I'm saying is the only way that you can present a completely even level playing field at this moment in time is to take that stance. That's how bad it is. Now, don't get me wrong.
Ultimately increase the testing. Ultimately, sport's got to spend more money supporting testing, because the UK doesn't have enough money.
But the people that create the testing materials create the masking agents.
Whoa.
You got poacher
That's
and
a conspiracy theory.
gatekeeper. Okay, from conversations I've had with individuals that I completely respect and see as valid, for me it's not speculation. You got poachers and
Yeah, no, I
gatekeepers in
mean,
the same
I
room.
know. You've got Victor Conti running around telling everyone how the world should operate now, given he comes from a different position. But that is a poacher turned gatekeeper.
Yeah, absolutely.
I get that.
Yeah.
I get that. What do you, Chris Eubank? Senior made an observation about you, not doping, but talked about the kind of people that was around his son, and he made a specific observation about you injecting cortisone into his son's hands.
Well, I also when I was made aware of that, I was made aware of it at the same time when I was told that TalkSport had taken it down, taken the quote down. It didn't appear. I've never injected anyone with anything. What he may be referring to,
because against Spike O'Sullivan, against Gary O'Sullivan.
you are permitted to use certain analgesics like lidocaine. You can inject lidocaine into hands.
Is that a trainer's role?
No, it's a physiotherapist, and it was a physiotherapist that did it.
Right, so it wasn't you.
See, he explained himself, but when you have people who are going about and they say or suggest certain aspects of activity that's taking place, the more you flood the airways with lies, the less people are going to believe the truth, because they don't know from which point the truth comes from. But here we have it. And it's important to know this is a problem in the sport of boxing. And it doesn't matter if it's from the lowest of the fighters that you may not know or even heard of, or if it happens to be the top guys that you revere. Some love, some despise. But all the same, this is something that is happening and it needs to be addressed. Otherwise, as Mr. Booth said or suggested, why not just let everybody do whatever the hell they want? Because they're getting away with it anyway. But of course, that is not the real answer, is it? This is Stormy B. Man. Shout out to the mighty LDBC and Liberated Perspective, a third eye view of the world. For more content such as this, please like, comment, subscribe, and share. Let me know what you think about this particular video editorial. The painful truth. There is doping in the sport of boxing, and it needs to be addressed. Don't you think? I do. Peace to everyone out there, and everyone please remain safe.